Have you ever left a doctor's appointment feeling more confused than when you walked in? You showed up on time. You explained your symptoms the best you could. You even smiled and nodded politely. And yet somehow your concerns were brushed aside, or worse, completely misunderstood. You're not alone. Every day, countless women over 65 walk into medical offices and unintentionally get overlooked. Not because their symptoms aren't real, but because of how they communicate them. It's not your fault no one taught us this. But the good news is, once you learn what to say and how to say it, you can change the entire direction of your care. In this video, I'm going to show you 7 simple communication shifts that could help you feel heard, understood, and taken seriously at your next appointment. Trust me, number 7 is something even the smartest women still do without realizing it. Before we begin, I'd love to hear from you. Where are you watching this from, and what time is it right now? Drop a comment below, even if it's just a simple moment from your day. I truly appreciate it. And if you find this helpful, don't forget to hit subscribe so you never miss the tips that matter most to your health. Being too polite makes doctors not realize the seriousness of the condition. In cities across America, from small towns in Iowa to busy clinics in New York, there's a quiet pattern happening behind the exam room door. A woman in her late 60s walks in, holding a paper with her symptoms neatly written. She smiles, sits down, and begins with the same gentle words. "Doctor, I know you're busy. I don't want to be a bother." And just like that, without realizing it, she's already lowered the volume on her own concerns. It's not because her pain isn't real or her symptoms aren't serious. It's because the way she speaks signals something to the doctor. This probably isn't urgent. You see, in the fast-paced world of American healthcare, especially in crowded Medicare clinics or under-resourced community hospitals, doctors are subconsciously trained to prioritize based on urgency and tone. If a patient comes in calmly downplaying their symptoms, the brain interprets, "This can wait," even if what's happening underneath is something far more serious. This isn't about bad doctors. It's about how human behavior and perception work together, often against us, especially for older women who were raised in a culture that taught them to be polite, agreeable, and not take up too much space. But here's the hard truth. That same kindness, the same thoughtful nature that's valued in families and friendships can become a barrier in the exam room. A woman who says, "I know it's probably nothing," may actually be experiencing the early signs of heart disease. A woman who says, "I didn't want to waste your time," may be facing a thyroid imbalance or the beginnings of neuropathy. The problem is our bodies change as we age, and symptoms don't always scream, they whisper. Fatigue may not feel alarming, but in someone over 65, it could point to anemia, diabetes, or even silent depression. Shortness of breath might seem like being out of shape, but it could be a warning sign of fluid in the lungs or heart failure. Now let's imagine a different version of that same visit. The woman walks in and says with calm clarity, "Doctor, I've had the symptom for 2 weeks now. It's affecting my sleep and energy, and I'd like to understand what's going on." Suddenly, everything changes. Her words say, "I value my body. I'm paying attention, and I need your help." This isn't being rude. This isn't being pushy. This is advocating for your own life, and in the American healthcare system, that can be the difference between being dismissed and being diagnosed. I've heard countless older women across the U.S., from retired teachers in Michigan to grandmothers in Georgia, say they feel invisible at the doctor's office. They say things like, "He barely looked at me," or "She didn't listen to what I was trying to say." But sometimes, without meaning to, they're the ones softening their story before it even begins. So here's what I want you to remember. Being respectful doesn't mean you have to whisper. Being kind doesn't mean you have to downplay what you're going through. You can speak with warmth and strength. You can tell your story and hold your ground. Next time you see your doctor, pause before you say, "It's probably nothing." Ask yourself, would I want my daughter to ignore this if it were happening to her? Because your life, your energy, your body, your joy is worth being taken seriously. And that starts with you taking it seriously first. Vague description prevents doctors from making a diagnosis. In the quiet waiting rooms of clinics across America, from sunny retirement communities in Florida to small-town hospitals in Ohio, there's a moment that happens every single day. A nurse walks in and asks gently, "So what brings you in today?" And a woman maybe in her early 70s, maybe older, answers, "I don't know. I just haven't been feeling like myself lately." To her, that sentence holds 1,000 thoughts. Maybe she's been more tired than usual. Maybe she's waking up dizzy or forgetting simple things like where she left her keys. But to the doctor who hears it, that phrase is foggy, like trying to drive through a misty morning in Seattle without headlights. Vague descriptions, though well-meaning, make it hard for any clinician to find a starting point. Not feeling like myself could mean anything from low blood pressure to an early sign of cognitive decline or a silent mood disorder. And for older adults in America, where 1 in 4 seniors deals with multiple chronic conditions, clarity is everything. Doctors aren't just diagnosing a cold, they're trying to untangle years of medical history, medications, and subtle body changes. That's why preparation matters, especially when your health feels off in ways you can't quite explain. Writing things down before the appointment may sound like a small act, but it's a powerful one. Start simple. What's been happening? When did it begin? Has it been daily, weekly, or only in the mornings? Does anything seem to make it better, like food, rest, or movement? And what makes it worse, maybe standing up too quickly or missing a meal? Adding a detail like I get lightheaded every morning when I get out of bed paints a much clearer picture than I feel off. It gives your doctor a place to begin a trail to follow. Think of it like visiting a mechanic. If you said, "My car feels weird," they wouldn't know where to look. But if you said, "There's a clicking sound when I turn left," that narrows it down. The same applies to your health. Your body is complex, and as we age in America, especially past 65, small signs can be early warnings of bigger issues. Fatigue might be a symptom of anemia or thyroid imbalance. Memory lapses could signal early vascular changes, especially if you've had high blood pressure for years. And dizziness might not be just age, it could be related to medications, hydration, or circulation problems. In fact, many older Americans unknowingly suffer side effects from common prescriptions that interact with one another. Being precise helps your doctor see these patterns sooner before they spiral into bigger complications. But beyond the science, there's something deeply emotional at play here. Many seniors hesitate to speak up because they don't want to seem dramatic or demanding. Especially women who grew up in a time when quiet strength was praised and personal needs were kept tucked away. But your story matters. Your voice matters. And your health deserves clarity, not confusion. So the next time you head to your doctor's office, whether it's in downtown Denver or a VA clinic in rural Texas, take 5 minutes to write down what's going on. Keep a notebook in your bag or a note on your phone. Bring a family member if it helps. But most of all, speak with confidence. You're not being difficult, you're being prepared. And in today's fast-paced American healthcare system, that preparation could be the key to catching something early and protecting your independence longer. Think it's probably due to old age, but don't say it. In towns from coastal Maine to Southern California, there's a quiet phrase that echoes in living rooms, church halls, and waiting rooms across America. I guess it's just part of getting older. It's the kind of sentence that sounds harmless, even reasonable. After all, you're in your 70s or 80s, and your body isn't what it used to be. Your knees creak, your energy dips, and sometimes your memory slips. So when something new shows up, a pain in the chest, a sudden weight drop, or a strange tightness in the legs, it's easy to brush it off. But here's the truth that too few people say out loud. Just because something is common doesn't mean it's normal. Yes, aging brings changes. That's real. But not every change is meant to be accepted without question. In fact, some of those changes might be signals your body's way of waving a little red flag, asking you to pay attention. One woman in Arizona told me her balance had gotten worse over the last year. She laughed it off, saying, "I fall sometimes, but don't all older folks fall?" But falling isn't just a nuisance. It's the leading cause of injury-related death for people over 65 in the United States. Many falls are preventable, caused by medication side effects, muscle weakness, or even vision changes that can be addressed. Another gentleman in Ohio mentioned that he'd lost nearly 15 pounds without trying. He shrugged and said, "Maybe my appetite's just slowing down with age." But unintended weight loss can point to serious issues, from thyroid problems to cancer to gastrointestinal conditions. And the longer it goes unspoken, the harder it can be to treat. The problem isn't just the symptom, it's the silence. Many older adults, especially in American culture, have been taught to be tough, to push through discomfort, to avoid complaining. There's pride in endurance and self-reliance. But when it comes to your health, silence can be dangerous. Our bodies are wise. They speak in whispers, first through fatigue, sleep changes, or strange aches. If we ignore those whispers, they get louder, and sometimes by the time we listen, the problem has already grown. From a medical standpoint, aging does change how symptoms appear. A heart attack in a 35-year-old might show up as crushing chest pain, but in an 80-year-old woman, it might look like shortness of breath and nausea. That's why doctors rely not just on tests, but on what you say and when you say it. Saying "I'm fine" when you're not doesn't make you strong. It makes it harder for people to help you. So here's a simple shift that can make a world of difference. If something feels new, strange, or off, don't assume it's just age. Ask, speak up, tell your doctor, "This doesn't feel right, and I want to understand what's going on." Because the truth is, many age-related symptoms can be treated, slowed, or even reversed when caught early. But doctors can't help with what they don't know. You've spent your life caring for others, raising families, building careers, contributing to your communities. Now is the time to care deeply for yourself. So whether you're in Chicago or Charleston, whether you live alone or with family, let this be a gentle nudge. Listen to your body. Speak when it asks for help. And remember, growing older in America doesn't mean shrinking your voice. It means learning how to use it better than ever before. Reducing pain for fear of being too sensitive. In many parts of America, from the quiet suburbs of Minnesota to the lively neighborhoods of San Diego, there's a silent habit that lives inside the hearts of older women. It doesn't show up on a medical chart. It won't be measured with a blood test, but it's there, quietly shaping the way conversations happen between patients and doctors. It's the habit of minimizing pain, of saying "I'm okay" when you're not, of rating a pain at 4 out of 10 when it's really an 8. This isn't because older adults are trying to be dishonest. Quite the opposite, in fact. It's because for decades, many women in America have been taught not to make a fuss, not to be dramatic, not to take up too much space even when they're hurting. They've been caregivers, helpers, problem solvers. And somewhere along the way, they learned to put their own pain at the bottom of the list. But here's the truth: when you downplay your symptoms, even with the best intentions, it makes it harder for your doctor to understand what's really going on. In medicine, every detail matters. Pain level, location, timing, whether it wakes you up at night, all of these clues point toward different diagnoses. So when someone says it's not too bad, doctors might assume it's something mild. They might send you home with rest instructions, when in reality you needed further tests. I remember a woman from Georgia who came into the clinic with abdominal pain. She smiled, said it wasn't much, rated it a 4, and joked about getting old. But her eyes told a different story. She was pale, wincing, and couldn't sit comfortably. After asking a few more questions, we discovered she'd been in sharp pain for 3 days, barely sleeping or eating. It turned out to be acute diverticulitis, an infection that needed antibiotics and rest. Had she waited another day, she could have ended up in the ER. And sadly, this is not rare. Many seniors in America are unknowingly delaying care because they feel guilty for speaking up. They feel like they're being too much. But I want to say this clearly: you are not too much. Your pain is not a burden. Your voice is not an inconvenience. The healthcare system in the U.S. is fast, clinical, and often rushed. And in that system, the way you describe your symptoms can mean the difference between attention and oversight. Being specific, being honest, being clear, that's not complaining. That's being smart. If your pain is constant, say it's constant. If it interrupts your sleep, say so. If it's getting worse, don't wait until your next checkup. These details don't make you weak. They help your doctor do their job well. They help you avoid unnecessary suffering. There's a quiet pressure in American culture to stay strong and tough as we age. But strength doesn't mean silence. True strength is knowing when to ask for help. True strength is speaking up when something doesn't feel right. So the next time you're sitting in a doctor's office, whether it's in a busy clinic in Chicago or a small practice in rural Montana, give yourself permission to be honest. Not only for your health, but for your dignity, your comfort, and your peace of mind. Because you deserve to be cared for, taken seriously, and treated with the attention your life has earned. And that starts with one simple, powerful choice to tell the full truth about how you feel. Let others speak for you. In clinics across America, from family practices in Ohio to busy medical centers in Los Angeles, there's a quiet shift that happens during many appointments with older patients. A senior walks in with a loved one by their side. Maybe it's a daughter, a son, or even a neighbor who's been helping out lately. It starts with good intentions. That companion wants to help, to explain, to make things easier. And for many, that support is incredibly valuable, especially if hearing memory or anxiety makes communication more difficult. But without even realizing it, something subtle changes in the room. The doctor starts looking at the companion instead of the patient. Questions get answered quickly, often before the patient has a chance to speak. And slowly, the person who should be at the center of the visit begins to fade into the background. This isn't about blame. It's about reclaiming your place in your own care story. Because in America's fast-paced healthcare system, the loudest voice often gets the most attention. And when that voice isn't yours, important details can be missed, like how long a symptom has been bothering you, or how it really feels at 3 a.m. when you can't sleep. Doctors need to hear directly from the person experiencing the symptom. That's how accurate diagnoses are made and how care becomes personalized, not just guessed. Even if you prefer having someone by your side, you can still lead the conversation. A simple sentence like, "I'd like to explain this part myself," can gently guide things back to you. Your experience, your words, your feelings, they matter. No one can speak for your body better than you. Whether you live in Boston, Phoenix, or a small town in the Midwest, your voice deserves space in the exam room. And the more clearly you use it, the more confidently your care team can help you. Don't ask if you don't understand. In exam rooms all across America, from senior clinics in Seattle to VA hospitals in Alabama, there's a moment that happens more often than anyone admits. A doctor finishes explaining a diagnosis, maybe using words like mild stenosis or inflammation of the soft tissue, and then pauses waiting for a response. The patient, often a woman in her 70s or 80s, nods politely, smiles a little and says, "Okay, got it." But deep down, she's not sure what any of it means. She doesn't want to seem rude or slow or like she's questioning the doctor's authority. So she stays quiet. And that silence, though understandable, can quietly open the door to confusion, fear, and missed opportunities for better care. Because here's the thing, understanding your diagnosis is not just helpful, it's essential to protecting your health. When you leave the clinic unsure of what's happening in your body, it's easy to misinterpret things. I've met patients in Pennsylvania who spent days thinking moderate stenosis was a form of cancer. I've talked to folks in Texas who thought degeneration meant their bones were falling apart. The truth is, many medical terms sound worse than they are. But unless you ask, you'll never know, and your mind will fill in the blanks with fear. Doctors don't always explain things clearly, not because they don't care, but because they've been trained in a world of fast language and technical jargon. That's why, as a patient, especially as a senior in the American healthcare system, it's okay to interrupt and ask, Can you explain that in plain English? It's okay to say, is this something I need to worry about right now? Or what should I be doing differently at home? These aren't silly questions. These are smart questions. They help you take control of your own care. They help you make better decisions, manage your medication, and avoid complications. And more than anything, they give you peace of mind so you're not lying awake at night wondering what the doctor really meant. In American culture, especially for older generations, there's a deep respect for authority figures, including doctors. But respect doesn't mean silence. It means working together. It means clarity. It means feeling safe enough to say, I don't understand yet. Can you help me? So the next time you're sitting in a medical office in New York, Arizona, or anywhere in between, take a breath and ask the question. Even if you've already nodded, even if you think it might be awkward, because your health is too important to guess, your future depends on what you understand today. And the right question asked at the right time might just be the thing that keeps you stronger longer. No notes taken before and after the examination. In communities from coastal Maine to Southern California, doctor's appointments have become a routine part of life for older adults in America. But inside those exam rooms, something surprisingly common happens. Something small, but with big consequences. A patient nods as the doctor speaks, maybe even says, I understand, and walks out with good intentions. But by the time they get home, half of what was said has already faded. Instructions blur. Medication changes get confused. The details slip through the cracks. And it's not because of memory problems alone. It's because in the rush and stress of medical visits, especially in crowded American healthcare systems, our brains naturally retain less when we're under pressure, especially when we're being told new information about our health, our treatment, or what needs to happen next. Studies in the U.S. have shown that patients forget between 40 and 80% of what their doctor tells them, sometimes even more, when multiple topics are discussed in one visit. That's why note-taking before, during, and after the appointment is one of the most underrated habits for older adults across the country. Imagine you're in a clinic in Atlanta, and the doctor tells you to weigh yourself, daily limit sodium, and take a new medication every morning. Without writing it down, it's easy to remember the pill, but forget the part about avoiding canned soup or watching your fluid intake. And these aren't small oversights. Missing daily weigh-ins could mean fluid buildup goes unnoticed in a patient with heart failure. Skipping a dose or misreading a label might mean blood sugar stays uncontrolled or blood pressure spikes. In worst-case scenarios, these gaps lead to unnecessary hospital visits, medication errors, or worsening symptoms that could have been prevented. So how can we change that? It starts before you even walk into the clinic. Keep a small notebook or even use your phone. Jot down any symptoms you've had when they started, what makes them better or worse, how they affect your daily life. Then write down your questions. Maybe it's about a side effect you've noticed, or a test result you never understood, or how to safely exercise with arthritis in your knees. During the appointment, don't be afraid to pause and write down the doctor's responses. If writing is hard, ask your doctor to print the instructions or type them into your after-visit summary. If you have someone with you, ask them to help you record notes either on paper or using a voice memo app. After the appointment, take time to review. Keep your notes in a safe, consistent place. Bring them to your next visit so you can track progress and avoid repeating questions. In a country where healthcare often feels rushed and fragmented, taking your own notes is like building a bridge between what you're told and what you actually remember. It gives you control, it protects your health, and it turns a confusing system into something you can work with step by step. Because in the end, it's your life, your body, and your care, and no one is more invested in that than you. Thank you for spending this time with me today. I hope the stories, tips, and gentle reminders in this video helped you see just how powerful your voice can be, especially when it comes to your health. Remember, speaking clearly, asking questions, and standing up for what your body's telling you isn't being difficult, it's being wise. And if you're experiencing any specific symptoms or medical concerns, Please don't wait. Make an appointment and talk with your doctor directly. These tips are shared for general awareness. If you're facing any health challenges, be sure to check with your doctor before trying anything new. Now I'd love to hear from you. What's one thing from this video that really spoke to you? Drop it in the comments or simply type the word hope if that's what you're taking with you today. And if you found this video helpful, don't forget to hit the subscribe button, turn on the notification bell, and share it with a friend or family member who might need to hear it too. Because we're all walking this path together, and every little bit of knowledge, care, and connection makes a difference. Until next time, take care of yourself the way you've always taken care of others. You are deeply valued, and your health, body, mind, and spirit deserves that same gentle attention.